spotted her at the Saturday market, a woman with hair the color of 100 overlapping shadows. Most of the gyris he saw were blonde, their hair either fine and natural like sand, or gleaming with the iridescent sheen of some newfangled chemical. But this one was different. She passed her hands over avocados with an unspoken tenderness, caressing the near purplish skin of the fruit with an affection that reminded him of his mother. Her cheeks were ruddy and flushed. They inspired in him a heat so intense he began to sweat. She was English, of that he could tell. It was all in the way she cocked her head, the way she kept her eyes forever on the shoreline, as if expecting her past to be there, waiting for her on the beach. He knew that feeling. He embodied it. For years, his mother had been nagging him to marry, to find someone with the right hips. But his mother still lived on the Mediterranean's opposite shore. She did not know the harshness of this new place. The woman lingered at his towel not more than a minute, but it was an important one. Her chin was hard, her frame angular. She had almost passed him by when something called her back. He saw her hesitate and pass her hands over his spread of plastic jewelry and the burned CDs, as if counting something. She smelled different. She smelled of strong soap and below that of licorice. She smelled the way he imagined her skin might taste. He felt the heat return. He stepped back behind the towel, spreading out the cameras and cell phone covers and the metallic sheen of long, flashy necklaces. "Good morning," he said, and she just barely raised her eyebrows. It was enough. Mustafa caught him looking, his eyes lingering on the narrow curves of her body, and shot him a glance. "She's too old for you," he said, "and too white." Yusef knew he was right, but he memorized her face all the same, the breeze of hair that curled behind her ears, the slight dusting of freckles across the bridge of her nose. This was a woman whose secrets he could bear. The second time Yusef saw her, it was after being chased off the beach by a policia local. Mustafa was gone that day, and he had been alone on Paseo. When the call came up, he made straight for the closest alley. He merged in with the crowd, young people coming home for afternoon lunch with their families, and most of the pubs on the street were closed for siesta, all but one. She was standing inside, wiping down the window that faced the street. Yusef slowed his pace. Her hair was piled on top of her head in an unceremonious mass, her cheeks red with effort. Her shirt was thin, ripped slightly to her bust. None of it was intentional, he could see, but that was just it. She exuded the ease of the universe, with her place in it that he envied. And then, almost without warning, she looked up. Yusef froze. Was she looking at him? Did she recognize him? Did she even see him? She was mouthing something, waving her hand. He adjusted the bundle on his back and waved back. She waved again and pointed. He turned. A man in green was making his way down the street. Yusef didn't wait. He hoisted the bundle above his head and walked up the steps to the pub. She opened the door for him and pointed behind the bar. Drink? He didn't know what to say. He had been a religious man once. He never was one for alcohol. She kept an eye on the window. Yusef sat at the bar. He could see a man in the back polishing glasses. A few men sat in the back corner, enthralled by some foreign sport on the television. The pub was otherwise quiet. The man in green passed by the window and kept walking. "What do you have?" the woman asked. "You will have something." The man in back chose this moment to come forward. "What was that all about, Linda?" he asked. He nodded toward the window. "That policeman seemed in hot pursuit." Yusef studied the bottle on the back wall. "What of it?" the woman said. The man looked at him. Yusef kept his eyes averted. He hoped Linda couldn't tell how his body radiated. He fairly trembled. At long last, the man spoke. "Just be sure he pays," he said, turning to the youth. "They rarely do." Linda clucked, leaning forward to wipe down the counter before Yusef. It was licorice, that smell, sweet and dark and powerful. Here she was, lady of her own domain. Still he trembled. "So what is it?" she asked. "Beer? Wine?" She leaned closer. "Whiskey?" Yusef felt his arms shake, his temples sweat, a fever of the likes he'd never had. He reached for his bundle and stood up. "What'd I say?" she asked. He was already at the door. When he got outside, he shook himself into the night thinking, Linda, her name is